No more dolls, no more toys. Alice only plays with bodies. It's too late to save her.
Alice, Sweet Alice came out in 1976 and was directed by Alfred Soul. And in this film, the story revolves around a family who head to a communion only to find out that one of their daughters were murdered during the communion. And the mother of the family and everyone else have suspicions that Alice, the second daughter of the family, could be tied to the murder that occurred during the communion. But as the film progresses, heavy doubts begin to unfold that Alice was responsible for the murder of her own little sister. Before I get into this movie, let me just say I am a fan of 70s cinema. I love 70s horror, I love 70s crime, 70s drama. I love 70s cinema all around. If you couldn't tell, it's right here. And 70s horror films like The Exorcist, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Last House on the Left, those are some of the horror films that I consider art house horror films, like heavy art house horror films. 70s horror films have a unique style that horror films from other decades don't have. And they really get under my skin personally. And this is exactly what Alice, Sweet Alice does. And because of these reasons, this film is heavily impactful to me. In my eyes, Alice, Sweet Alice is one of the few horror films that I can describe as having a haunting cinematography. This film, in my eyes, has very deep and raw cinematography that it's not even funny. When I first saw this movie, the very first opening shot of this movie made me feel uncomfortable. I feel like it would be an understatement if I were to say it sent chills down my spine. It almost felt like I was witnessing something that was created from the devil himself. This movie really does have cinematography that has cinematography everywhere that's been engraved in my head ever since I first watched it. And I highly respect this movie for that. I also really do kind of love the mystery elements behind this film. It really does keep you guessing who is responsible for the murders that are occurring in this film. Is Alice responsible for the people who are dying around her? Is someone else trying to frame Alice? And throughout the first half of the movie, it really does keep your attention glued to the film, because it wants you to keep thinking, is Alice actually responsible for these terrible crimes that are occurring around her? And I just gotta bring out how the acting is in this movie, because it really is something that deserves to be heavily praised. Considering this is an indie 70s horror film, the acting in this film could have been cheesy as hell. But the acting in this film is absolutely phenomenal. I think the actors in this film really do commit. They absolutely do a fantastic job. Like, for instance, when the mother finds out that her daughter is dead during the communion, and she screams at the top of her lungs, that's terrifying. And the character of Alice is such a snotty-nosed little runt that it actually is supposed to keep you guessing, is she actually doing this? Or, again, is she being framed for all these crimes? Because it's really a 50-50. And I think the idea of making Alice a snotty-nosed little brat was intentional to build up that suspense. And I think it's genius, personally. This film also does manage to have some incredible shots. Like I've said before, the cinematography is absolutely bone-chilling. It will be engraved in your head, most likely forever. And it almost makes you feel like you're in a slaughterhouse of some sorts. And I usually don't say this a lot of horror film. I usually don't say this about a lot of horror films, but this film really has a lot of cinematography that has stayed with me. I absolutely thought this film had breathtaking cinematography. And that's a great thing. This film has some cinematography that absolutely haunts me. It terrifies me. It really does. One of the most memorable scenes in this entire movie for me is the scene where the aunt walks down the stairs ready to gets ready to leave the building, and someone who has the same exact yellow coat, yellow raincoat, and same exact mask as Alice, supposedly, walks up to the aunt and stabs her in the leg while she's trying to walk down the stairs. It's a haunting scene. I gotta admit, there are some moments in the second half of the movie that do kind of drag. Just a few moments. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued, because I totally was. And the second half of the movie is obviously when they reveal who was actually responsible for these murders. And I'm not gonna say who the killer is, basically, because it's even kind of hard to explain who this killer is anyway. But if you haven't seen Alice, Sweet Alice, I highly recommend you watch this film. This is an overlooked 70s semi-slasher. I'll call it a semi-slasher. I'm not going to call it a full-on slasher like Halloween or Friday the 13th, because it's not. This film relies more on mystery than its slasher elements. So I'm just going to call it a semi-slasher, but this is one of those overlooked 70s horror films that I really just deserve things a lot more love and appreciation. It's a hidden gem. It's, in my opinion, it could be a cult classic in some sorts, although not a lot of people might know about this movie. It has haunting cinematography, the acting is great, the plot is pretty solid, and all in all, Alice, Sweet Alice is a horror movie that will forever be engraved in my head. And it's something it's definitely something that I have a special place for in my heart. And it's for sure one of my favorite 70s horror flicks. I'm gonna give Alice, Sweet Alice a B+. Guys, thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really hope you guys check out this horror movie sometime around the Halloween season, because it is definitely worth checking out. Look forward to more horror movie reviews that'll be coming very soon. And as always, if you're new here and you like what you see here, why not hit that subscribe button to join the EliB/520 community, and I will see you next time. Peace out.